Training camp's finally here, and I got a whole lot to say. Let's take a look at all the highlights from day one. Jets! Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, we're finally here at training camp, and we got a whole lot to go over. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video. And we're talking the big topic of the day first. That is the big ticket moving over to the right-hand side and George Fant staying at left tackle. Now, this came out way earlier than I think Jet fans really expected it to happen. We were told there was going to be a camp battle. They would be able to go back and forth, but I think the Jets, Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas realized how that was going to drag on throughout camp, and they just made a decision right off the bat, and it was the right decision to make. George Fant played really well last year at left tackle. He really found his groove. Mekhi Becton, on the other hand, obviously coming back from the injury, he actually played a little bit of right tackle at Louisville in college, so it's not totally foreign to him either. And I'm all good with this. I really am. As much as you want to see your number 11 overall pick take over the reins at left tackle, it's not like this is going to be the end all for Mekhi Becton. He could absolutely move over at some point in time in the seasons to come. We'll see where that kind of goes. Now, Rich Cimini quoted Robert Saleh incorrectly, and it got picked up by like Adam Schefter and stuff, and he said Mekhi's left tackle days are over, and that is not what Robert Saleh said. Here is exactly what Robert Saleh had to say.
What did it take when you kind of told him, all right, you're now the right tackle and Fant's the left tackle?
He was good. George is good. They're fine. We just sat down. We just talked about it, and we don't want those guys jumping back and forth. We made a decision that was best for the team. George had a fantastic year last year at left tackle. Mekhi is a gifted young man who can do both. It doesn't mean that Mekhi's left tackle days are over, but right now he's young enough, just like AVT, to make that transition. We really like those two next to each other, and so it's going to be we got a really cool group.
So maybe Cimini was sleeping a little bit when they went through that press conference, but definitely caused a big stir across Jet fans, at least for a little bit, until people actually watch the clip and they're like, oh, okay, that's not what he said at all. And that totally changes the entire context of the entire discussion between Mekhi Becton and George Fant. These guys are both professionals. I have no issues with anything that's going to go on. And Mekhi Becton seems like he's like, hey, as long as I'm on the field, I'm one of the 5 players on the field, I'm good with it. Doesn't matter to me. Zach Wilson runs around so much. Left tackle, right tackle, you're going to have to hold your blocks. And it's not like Mekhi Becton's going to be facing maybe an inferior pass rush on the right-hand side versus the left-hand side. Because as Robert Saleh said, Von Miller lines up everywhere. Defensive coordinators are going to find the weak link if you have one. So you better play well no matter what side of the line you're on. And the other thing to this is probably looking at the long-term scope of how this plays out. Now, obviously, we bring in Laken Tomlinson to play our left guard, and he slots in right next to George Fant. Mekhi Becton, when we drafted AVT, we had the plan to put AVT right next to him. So that actually kind of stays the plan on the right-hand side, and the Jets are going to be able to bulldoze over dudes running with Breece Hall and Michael Carter on that right-hand side, while George Fant has a little bit better skill set maybe in the pass protection side of things, at least at this particular point in time. So it's going to be interesting to see what winds up happening. George Fant's going into the final year of his contract, so it starts making you think, what happens with that deal? Right now, the top 20 left tackles in the league are getting at least $12.2 million. George Fant is actually number 21 on that list, so you can see where he's probably looking to get paid. With Mekhi Becton, on the other hand, you might be saying, hey, right tackles get paid less. He's got to be pretty ticked off about this. And that's kind of why Orlando Brown pushed so hard to get out of, was it Baltimore, I think is where he was, to get over to be a left tackle. So that was like a huge deal, a lot of money. The top right tackles, if you are an elite right tackle, like we project Mekhi Becton to be in this league, he has nothing to worry about from a financial standpoint because the top 4 right tackles get paid like left tackles. Now, when you start talking about tackles 6 through 10, then there's a little bit of a drop off there. So you got to play well if you're Mekhi Becton for sure as far as the financial side of things go, because then you're talking about $8 million a year, which is a pretty steep drop off considering the top 20 left tackles are getting that $12 million payday. So Across the board, I do really like this. I think George Fant has earned the right to protect Zach Wilson's blindside, and I think there's probably something to Zach Wilson feeling comfortable knowing Fant is back there. And then depth-wise, yeah, we got Mitchell that we drafted later in this draft, but you also have AVT. AVT did play a little bit of tackle at USC, so you kind of have that emergency plug as well. Either way, I would like to see how our depth plays out at this position, because last year we saw when Becton went down, left tackle, right tackle, really, really critical on that offensive line, especially with a young quarterback and a young team in general. So going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The next story I want to get to is Zach Wilson. Now, it's kind of silly to rank or grade or count catches and drops and things like that in training camp, especially day one. But that's the article I read, and this is what we're going to talk about. So according to, I think it was The Athletic, had Zach Wilson 7 for 11 in drills. There were 2 drops, 1 interception by DJ Reed. Apparently they struggled in the red zone a little bit, but everywhere else they were pretty good, moving the ball effectively. Obviously, it takes a little bit more time for the offense to click than the defense, just because you got to be on the same page, where the defense is more so reacting to what the offense is doing anyway. So I'm not really concerned about that. I think Zach Wilson's going to be totally fine. I can't wait to go. Saturday, fans, training camp. I can't wait to see all this stuff. This gets me all sorts of hyped up. And then for my final story of today, we're talking a little bit of Denzel Mims. This was sort of I don't want to call it a surprise, but it's nice to see people talking highly of Denzel Mims. He was thrown out 5 times, caught 4 passes. He actually caught a long pass from Mike White over Isaiah Dunn in coverage. So again, you're probably talking backups here. But either way, it's nice to see him get a little bit of exposure. Not to mention, Jet fans want to see this kid perform well. Everyone wants this guy to be a top wide receiver on this team. At least wide receiver 5, where you can turn to him and be like, wow, that's wide receiver 5. This dude has first round talent. That's the kind of caliber that Denzel Mims is. Now, my thoughts on this are, I don't know if there's enough to go around for Denzel Mims. And for me, if I'm Denzel Mims and I'm looking at the roster, you're not cracking in ahead of Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, probably not Braxton Berrios, probably not Corey Davis. So at best, you're wide receiver 5. You got both tight ends in Conklin and Uzama, and then you got Breece Hall and Michael Carter. So you're talking weapon option number 9. Maybe you're seeing in a good week 4-5 targets thrown Denzel Mims' way. The writing on the wall for me is the Jets are going to pump up Denzel Mims as much as possible, both for the Jets' sake, because they want to see him perform well, and 2, for Denzel Mims' sake, and for also, possibly some trade value. We saw Joe Douglas flip Chris Herndon for a draft pick last season. I think you might be looking at something similar towards the end of camp with Denzel Mims. I'm not sure if he's going to be that guy that can play special teams and be the maybe gadget player that you're probably looking for at the tail end of your roster. But guys, those are my thoughts on today's practice. I know not an overly crazy video, but it's really cool to find out that you got Fant on the left-hand side, Becton on the right-hand side. We don't have to worry and wonder all season long, or at least all regular season. No, not regular season. Preseason? Training camp? Yeah. Don't have to worry about preseason at all. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. Do you like Fant on the left? Do you like Becton on the right? What do you think Zach Wilson does this season? And what is going to happen with Denzel Mims? Boys and girls, this is Jets Talk signing off. Jets! Jets! Jets!